welcome to another episode of Monster Model Review. I'm your host, Rob Madison, and on this episode I'm going to do something a little bit different. Instead of reviewing a single kit, I'm going to review a collection of kits. I'm talking about the original 13 Aurora monster kits. Aurora was famous for doing things before that, like Mr. Machine and boats and planes and ships. But this was different. This was monsters from the Universal collection. Now, the difference between these kits and some of the early ones we've talked about on our review program is these were made out of plastic. These were the kits that we built when we were kids, just like the cars, boats, airplanes that you're used to. You had to use Tester's glue or a plastic cement that would basically meld these things together. The thing about the plastic kits is since the head comes in two pieces, the legs come in right, left, front, and backs, there was a lot of seam work to these kits. In order to make them look good, you have to spend a lot of time doing the seam work, scraping them, trying to get rid of all those big gaps that made it look like a plastic model kit. Now with the kits that you're going to see of mine, I didn't really spend a whole lot of time on it. I've got a kind of a system that I use where I just take a bead of glue and take the bead all the way around the kit and get a nice solid bead, put the two pieces together, let it bead out a little bit, let it dry, and then scrape it down and spray paint it and see how it looks. If it doesn't look good, I'll spray paint a little more and scrape a little bit more, but I didn't do a lot of putty on these first four kits. I started using putty around the King Kong kit, and you'll know why, because there's a lot of gaps in Kong and it's hard to make them look good without using some putty on it. Starting with the Frankenstein kit, this was one of the earlier kits that I did, but I'd redone this one in the early 90s. I went with the flesh-colored skin instead of the green. I wanted to give him the dead flesh instead of the rotten flesh. I'm pretty happy with this kit. The dry brushing on it's a lot of fun. Like I said, the seam work I didn't spend a lot of time on, so you might see a seam or two, but I was still pretty happy with it just by doing the Tester's, bead in there. But it's a nice kit. It's a lot of fun to do. This is an Illuminator reissue from the early 90s. The second kit that I did, Dracula, very cool kit with the diorama base and the bats and the tree. I always loved this one. It especially looked good when you had a lamp behind it and it casted a shadow on your wall. But again, I didn't use putty on this. I just painted it up. I like this kit. It was fun to dry brush. The one thing I wish I would have done was put red on the inside of the cape, and if I ever get some time, I think that'll be the next thing I do. The Wolfman kit was just a good, fun dry brushing kit. It glued together super quick. It wasn't real hard to build. The rock was probably the toughest to get the seam out, and all I did was glued it up and scraped and sanded and scraped and then spray painted it with a lot of flat primer before I painted it to get rid of as many cracks as I could. A fun kit to dry brush, like I had said. I've always loved this kit. I love the diorama base with the rat and the skull. The next kit we have here is the Mummy kit. Now the Mummy has always been one of my medium favorite monsters. In fact, I didn't even care for the original Boris Karloff Mummy movie until I was older, and now I enjoy it quite a bit. I think it's a great film. When I was young, I wanted obviously more of the Mummy, so it was more fun to watch the Lon Chaney Jr. or the Tom Tyler Mummy films where he's lurching around the whole time, and where I think the model obviously is based on. It's a very cool kit. I like the base a lot. I like the Cobra a lot. And the seam work is obviously one of the harder kits to do because you've got the bandages to work around. You pick your colors that you want to go with, and I went for a dirty look. I went for the sandy, dirty look of the Mummy, and I think he turned out pretty well. Again, another fun kit to dry brush. It's all bandages and good texture on these kits. The sculptures are very good, and boy, they're memorable. I didn't want to show you a bunch of kits that you couldn't find or couldn't afford. Most of these kits, all of these kits now, have been reissued over the years. The last one being Dr. Jekyll's Mr. Hyde being reissued just this last summer from Mobius Models. We'll be talking more about that in a future episode. But Polar Lights reissued The Bride of Frankenstein and all of the Go-Kart series of monsters and reissued a whole bunch of the monsters. And Revell Monogram has reissued the first four and the Phantom and the Creature over the years. They're always available on eBay and some of the better stores out there. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope it brings back some fond memories. If you haven't built a monster model for a long time, look on the web and find one. There's got to be one out there for you to build. They're great, they're relaxing, they give you something to do. The kids love them, and I'm hoping my kids get into model building. We're coming up with the Phantom and the Creature and a couple more Aurora kits in the next episodes, so we'll see you then.